Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. I am your host, Mike Briggs, and we come to you live at this time each day. If it's an 11 a.m. hour, the show is artists and authors, and we have different creative people on the show. Weird thing happened a couple of years ago. COVID came and forced us to close down and not have live guests. So we discovered this thing called Zoom, which has allowed us to bring in guests from all over the world, and we've become international. An international show. Our guest today is all the way, speaking of national and international, all the way from North Carolina, Danielle Orsino. Do I have it right? Danielle?
You got it right.
We rehearsed it 20 times. I still almost blew it. By the way, Danielle's Instagram is Birth of the Fae _novel. And she was just on the Tamron Hall show. Tamron Hall is on here in California at 2 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Wow, that's all I can say, Danielle. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, tell us about where we are in the series, which book in the series this is, and what the heck is a Fae?
Well, I'm going to tell you everything, Mike. We're going to take it all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going to take it to Locked Out of Heaven, which is my first book, because book 6 is coming out, which is Forgive Us, in June, and that ends volume 1 for Birth of the Fae. The series is Birth of the Fae, and I have 6 books in it, but I'm going to be ending volume 1 before we head to volume 2. So I'm telling everybody, go back to the beginning with Locked Out of Heaven.
Okay. And by the way, we just put the book cover up there, Locked Out of Heaven. That is the first book, right?
Yes, correct. That is the first book. That starts all of the Fae adventures.
Okay. And so how many are out now?
Right now, there are 5 full novels out and 1 novella, which is dragon-based. Okay. And that you can read whenever you'd like. You don't have to read anything in order with the novella.
Okay. Now, Locked Out of Heaven, that's where we should start?
I advise everybody to start at the beginning, because you get the full effect of the world building, and I do a lot of world building, as many people do in fantasy. But yeah, you want to start at the beginning with Locked Out of Heaven. I have a prologue that kind of sets up what this whole thing is about. Now,
by the way, the genre is fantasy?
Yes, I am fantasy, strict fantasy, not romantasy, nothing like that. I am not, romance-based. My Fae do not have time to swipe right or swipe left.
Nice.
They're world building. They got stuff going on.
Now, and who's your audience?
My audience I'm an adult audience in that sense. I am not young adult by any means, just because I'm dealing with heavier themes. A lot of it is about self-discovery, self-introspection, and finding out who you are. My Fae are angels that are locked out of heaven. They can't go home anymore. So what happens when you lose your job and your whole identity is based on what you do for a living, which I think we can all, we've all had that, where we just suddenly, can't go back to work for whatever reason, or we're fired suddenly. What happens when you build yourself around material things or what you do? And that's kind of what they're dealing with.
Now, let me ask you, is this your normal daily wardrobe you're wearing now?
Oh, of course. But don't we all go to the grocery store with the crown on top of our head and this gold draped in gold? Don't we all do this?
I have.
No,
I have.
This is my fake cosplay, because I am on the covers of all my books. Four Horsemen Publications, which is my publisher, saw me in fake cosplay, dressed up as my characters for a promo shoot, and decided that I should be on the covers because I am a cosplayer, and it was their idea. So now I grace the covers of my books.
Is that you on Locked Out? My eyesight doesn't allow me to see that far, but Locked Out of Heaven, is that
Yes.
you?
That is myself on the cover of Locked Out of Heaven as the mermaid Lady Serena.
Now, talk about cosplay. Now, do you show up at some of these events?
Yes, I show up at all in-person appearances in cosplay. I do all my interviews in cosplay, as you can see, crown and all, everything. Even when I go to Comic-Con, I've always been in cosplay as a DC character, a Marvel character, whatever it is. I've always done cosplay, so it kind of feels natural.
It is now. Well, you look very natural in it, too. So,
Thank you.
Now, I don't read fantasy. I'm going to read this because you built it up to be fascinating, and we have a personal connection. I'll read it, and you'll probably be woven in there somehow, your personality or your intellect. I want to ask you before we're out of time, a little bit about your process. Are you a real strict, like I get up at 7 a.m. every morning and start writing?
No, I can't say I'm very strict like that. I do write pen to paper, though. I don't sit at a computer per se. all my books were handwritten first, probably because I didn't know what I was doing. I was a nurse first, and this just kind of came from a patient. So I did sit and handwrite because, once again, I didn't know what I was doing. So all the books were written completely out of order.
Oh.
I'd start with one chapter, start writing, and then I'd be like, oh, I should probably go and tell somebody how this happened. And I'd pick up another journal and start writing. So everything was first handwritten. I still have all of them. And then I go and sit at the computer. And that's where the first line of editing starts.
Nice. And then you start putting it in the computer, but you've already got these great notes, pages and pages of notes. You can draw from
Yes.
here and here and here. That's fascinating. Now, I always say this, congratulations, by the way, because anybody could write a book, but few people can finish writing a book. And once it's written, then what do you do with it then? Getting it published, that's another giant story I'm sure you could tell us about. But now, is it getting easier?
It's flowing better because you kind of get your process down and you figure it out and you're in the heads of these characters. So they kind of write themselves. And I laugh because when I do something with a character, they kind of sit there and go, nah, I wouldn't do that. No, don't do that. They take on a life of their own. And I always joke that I have voices in my head. And I do. They tell me what they're going to do.
Nice.
So it does get easier, but at the same point, you're more emotionally connected. So when you have to kill somebody off, they're kind of like, oh, you're going to do that to me? And you feel bad.
Nice. And do you have any, I like to talk process because we have so many people who watch who are struggling through trying to get through their first book. Do you track your characters some way, like for continuity?
Yes, I have an author index that I keep that is a list of every character, what faction they belong to, physical description, who they're related to, where I think they're going to go, because that does change a little bit. But I have everything, the places in the Vale, which is where the Fae live, like I said, factions, sacred items, even etiquette. If a Fae passes a drink to the left, it's an insult, things like that. I have everything, and that's my author index.
Yeah.
And
Right
I
there,
keep that. That's the Bible.
I've learned a new giant thing right there, author index. So,
Exactly.
again, I could talk to you for hours. We're running out of time. Are you appearing any place? Any signings coming up we should know about?
I will be at Books, Gowns, and Crowns in May in Tampa, which will be a gathering of a bunch of fantasy authors that we've all been chosen. And that will be in Tampa May 19th, and that's at Tampa Fairgrounds. And then I will be at GalaxyCon Raleigh in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is a huge Comic-Con in July 26th, I believe. And I'll be there. So I'm really excited about both those events. And I will be in cosplay.
Cosplay. Oh, nice, of course. Thank you, Danielle, for being on our show. Anything we left out you wanted to tell our guests?
One thing I have is I do have a video game coming out by Melderverse, and you can adopt your own dragon. So if you go to melderverse.com, you can find out how to get your very own little Los, who's the chameleon dragon inspired by my Yorkie, in Locked Out of Heaven.
By the way, I forgot the most important part. Where and how do people get your books?
You can get the books at either fourhorsemenpublications.com, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever fine books are sold, and you can see the entire series.
Great, yeah. I don't like one over another. I don't endorse one, but man, I go to Amazon, I press that button, it just shows up at my house. No shipping charges or anything. Thank you.
I get it.
Yeah, thank you for coming back again. We really appreciate that, and we hope as your books continue to come out and things keep happening, we hope you'll come back.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, Danielle Orsino, Birth of the Fae, and all the series. It's so exciting. We'll be back with more right after this.